Greetings to the New Testament Writings in Context course here at Lagrange College in the summer of 2019. This is your instructor, Dr. Larry Asplund, coming to you from St. Augustine, Florida. Till recently, I lived in Pine Mountain and was very, very active in the great community of Lagrange and in Lagrange College. What a great blessing it was. I even served as a pastor for about 5 years there in Lagrange. I no doubt have bumped into some of you in various contexts. But now, to be honest, my 90-year-old parents live in St. Augustine, Florida. So I am here kind of enjoying some, who knows, final days with them. And I'm blessed, I'm blessed. So it's what a treat it is for me to be able to participate again with Lagrange College and with all of you in this summer course. It goes by very quickly, as you know. It's a 5-week intensive. So we want to jump in and really get a great start in week 1. So welcome to week 1. This is the introduction to the New Testament, and we are going to be setting the stage when it comes to our understanding of the New Testament as literature, but also just the New Testament as, a significant portion of Scripture for us. If you are coming from the perspective of Christian faith, and of course, it's foundational in terms of the gospel story, etc. And so we're going to enjoy both our introduction in our textbook as well as just reading in the New Testament and discussing together some of the great ideas that we encounter this summer. So let's get started. First of all, there are modules, as you know, in our online course. The first one is the introduction that has all of the basic, most important foundational information. And then there are 5 modules after that, one for each of the 5 weeks. And so be sure you have thoroughly explored. There's some extra resources that Lagrange College has put on there for us this year that I know you will enjoy and will benefit from. There is a discussion area called Instructor's Announcements. That's where I will always put my announcements, both written and video. You're encountering this in that area. So if you want to catch up with or find out what's going on from my perspective, it is my goal and my commitment to you to keep you focused going through the elements of this class, remind you what's coming up, try to hopefully answer some of your questions, give you a sense of direction for the coming week and 4 specific assignments. And then if you haven't had a chance yet, jump into the water cooler. The water cooler is simply a discussion area where you can introduce yourself and you can get to know each other. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing there at Lagrange College, something about yourself maybe on a personal level, and then greet each other. I find that online working, even when it goes by so quickly as this class will, works best to the extent that there are, kind of social media elements where we connect socially as well as when it comes to doing coursework. Online learning is really not like an old correspondence course. It is a very interactive, dynamic learning environment, learning experience. So I think it's great for you to stop by. And of course, I will always interact with each one of you as you introduce yourself, because I look forward to getting to know you a little bit this summer as well. So course resources. First of all, of course, the course syllabus, the Lagrange College syllabi, as you well know, are very, very thorough. They have everything you could ever possibly need. All of the details are there. So if you have it in front of you, keep it in front of you. You're not going to get lost. Everything is going to be made as clear and as specific as possible. Then I have attached a couple of performance rubrics, they're called. They're not grading rubrics in that I'm not going to specifically use them to grade your assignments, but they are performance rubrics in that they unpack my expectations for the 2 assignments that you will have every week. So there is a written assignment / reflection paper rubric and a discussion forum rubric. And so when you, especially here in week 1, when you do those first 2 assignments, be sure to check out the rubric, because my grade will reflect my expectations. even if I'm not using these rubrics in a formal kind of way. So you will want to be able to access them and get a sense of, the kind of thing I'm looking for in these assignments. Week 1 learning objectives. Number 1, first of all, to be familiar with the background of the New Testament writings. And so those writings all occur in a real life context in the first century. And so to be able to begin to appreciate, if depending on how you grew up, sometimes we have different approaches even to the Bible. So if you grew up in a Christian family and our approach to reading, occasionally dipping into the New Testament for whatever reason, could reflect a variety of practices, all of which are fine. But I don't know that we always take the time to really sit down and say, okay, what's really going on in this passage? Who are the people involved? What's the historical context, the cultural context, etc.? So we're going to definitely be working together on those kinds of ideas in this class. The second learning objective is to reflect on the relationship between the first century context and our own 21st century context. So we're not here to critique either one, but I think it's helpful to reflect on the differences, but there are similarities as well. So to be able to compare the challenges of the first century context to our own, the experiences in the first century to our own, can be very valuable. We'll do that, a bit of that, throughout the context of our course this summer. And then number 3, to be able to communicate observations and reflections on the first century background of the New Testament writings, particularly in the discussion forum. So every week you will have an opportunity to interact with each other on the big ideas. And I find that very, very helpful. And so to be able to, in a written form, which is frankly, hopefully more thoughtful in some cases than even a verbal form, to be able to interact with each other on those background ideas. Week 1 reading this week, we'll only jump into the textbook by Catherine Corey, A Voyage to the New Testament. Chapters 3 to 5. I'm not assigning you everything in the textbook. I'm not assigning you all the books of the New Testament. If you've looked at the syllabus, you already know that. But I do want you to dip into it and do some good reading. Do some helpful reading as we go forward. And it'll be a bit of a challenge. If you like reading, it's not going to be that much of a challenge. But for others, it may be. So keep on it. As a student, I remember keeping textbooks with me everywhere I went. So if I had a free 15 minutes, I could pull one out and do a bit of reading, etc. I have provided every week for you a reading report link. So you want to access that link at the end of every week. And it looks like a quiz, but all it does is give you an opportunity to report your reading. So be sure to do that when you're done with your reading. Also, I've created and will have created every week another a resource area that's simply called Week 1 Resources. I put a couple of hopefully helpful, maybe a couple of fun additional resources for you. It's not required that you do anything with them. I just want to make sure you'll get some good, useful, helpful, interesting additional ideas as we go through the course together. I would invite you to also let me know if you would recommend a resource for the class. I'll be happy to go in and add your recommendation to what I post in the weekly resource area. The week 1 written assignment is this: to reflect on the first century Judeo-Greco-Roman context of the New Testament writings and how that might differ from our 21st century Western context. And so, Christianity didn't start out, the New Testament was not written in a Western cultural context. It is basically an Eastern, more of an Asian kind of a context. So there is influence, particularly going forward as we, launch into the Mediterranean. We move out of the Middle Eastern context. We encounter a Greek context, ultimately a Roman one, but it's all very different from our own context. So be able to reflect together on that original first century context, maybe with some thoughts, some ideas for how that might differ from our own, is really the topic of your first essay. Be sure once again to refer to the performance rubric because I give you all the individual expectations for your writing, and then use the link provided ultimately to submit a copy of your paper. Remember to submit it either as a Word doc or a PDF, so I can access it with my PC. Week 1 discussion is this: the books of the New Testament were not written in a vacuum, but rather in a specific time and place and for a special purpose. As you have read material about the context of the New Testament writings, what has stood out in your mind as particularly helpful or clarifying? So, that will vary from student to student as to, wow, I didn't know that, or that strikes me as being important to keep that in mind, or whatever it is. So to be able to put that down as an insight from you, from your perspective, and then to interact with the other students is just a great opportunity. So when it comes to the week 1 discussion area, just click the link called Add a New Discussion and post your ideas. Once again, refer to the discussion performance rubric for my expectations. Post by Thursday night, reply to at least other posts by midnight on Sunday night. So the books of the New Testament are, familiar to most of us. If you grew up in church, you have at least, accessed them from time to time or key passages from time to time. But for us, we want to take a little more time, not just to read, but to reflect on the background and to consider together how that is relevant to us. I'm hoping it will be a growth opportunity for us. It will be hopefully enlightening, definitely educational, but maybe encouraging along the way as well. So it's going to be a wonderful week 1. I'm so much looking forward to participating with you. Please know that even though I don't live next to you anymore, I'm readily available to you. I've given you my cell phone number. I still have my old cell phone number in the syllabus. Feel free to text me and request a telephone conversation. I'll be happy to do so. So in the meantime, please know that you are in my prayers every day. God bless you, everybody. Just have a wonderful week 1.